So there's this one huge, kind of messy question about the economy that's on pretty much everyone's mind right now. And today, we're going to try and untangle it. I mean, it's the question, right? You feel it, I feel it, we all see the headlines. But an actual straight answer, it feels like it's always just out of reach. So, are we really heading into a recession? Okay, so to get a real answer, you can't just go with a gut feeling. You have to look at the data. We turn to the official scorekeepers, organizations like the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They're the ones collecting the hard numbers that are supposed to tell us what's really going on. And, well, this is where our whole story takes a pretty big turn. Because what happens when that data is wrong? Think about it. Making huge decisions without good data is kind of like flying a plane with instruments that are on the fritz. And right now, it feels like our economic dashboard is flickering like crazy. All right, let's dive into this. But before we get into all the data drama, we need to get on the same page. What does a recession even look like? It turns out there are basically three different flavors. So let's break this down. First, you've got your minor recession, or what they call a soft landing. That's the best case scenario, right? The economy cools off, but nothing really breaks. Then there's the moderate recession. This is the one you probably think of as a normal recession. It's definitely painful, you'll feel it for sure, but the economy can bounce back. And then there's the deep one, the hard landing. This is the one everybody's terrified of. We're talking widespread bankruptcies, a total credit freeze, a real crisis. So, where do the experts think we're headed? What are the odds? Well, right now they're putting the highest probability, a 45% chance, on that moderate standard recession. A mild soft landing is right behind it at 40%. And thankfully, that deep crash is seen as the least likely, down at 15%. But here's the kicker, and this is so important. These odds are only as good as the data they're based on. And that's the crucial point, isn't it? How we track all of this. Which brings us to the jobs report. This is supposed to be our clearest signal. But lately, this is where things have gotten really, really messy. Okay, so every single month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS, puts out its jobs report. And this thing is a big deal. It's supposed to be the gold standard, totally unbiased, nonpartisan info that everybody from the Fed down to a small business owner relies on. Let's look at a real-world example. This is wild. The first reports for the year between March 2023 and March 2024, they showed the economy added a really solid 1.76 million jobs. Looks pretty good, right? Strong. Well, hold on. When the BLS went back to revise those numbers, which they always do, with more complete data, the whole picture just changed. The actual number of jobs created was closer to 850,000. Do the math on that. That means more than 900,000 jobs we all thought were created, just poof. They were never really there. And look at this chart. It just perfectly illustrates how massive this problem is. That one single revision literally cut the number of new jobs created over that year by more than half. It's like you thought you were going 70 miles per hour, but you were actually going 35. It changes everything. And look, this wasn't some one-off mistake. This was the second huge downward revision in a row. Now, these big adjustments often happen when the economy is at a turning point, when the old survey methods can't keep up with how fast things are changing, which is, ironically, the exact moment we need the data to be the most accurate. So, yeah, this begs a really big question. Why is our most important economic tool suddenly getting so unreliable? Let's peel back the curtain and see what's actually going on. It pretty much boils down to three big problems. First, the economy itself is just changing in ways we've never seen before. Second, really good data has become a private, profitable commodity. And third, some of the ways we measure things are just outdated. And what's so wild is how these problems all feed into each other. Think about it. It's way harder for the BLS to survey the gig economy and all these new small businesses, which, by the way, are the first to feel a slowdown. And they're trying to do this with less staff and a smaller budget than they had over a decade ago. At the exact same time, you've got these private investment firms spending a fortune, like 20 times the BLS's entire budget, to get their own better data. That creates this huge information gap between Wall Street and the rest of us. So when the official numbers get this fuzzy, what happens? Well, people start looking for clues anywhere they can find them. And that leads to some, let's just say, pretty creative places. Probably the most famous of these is the men's underwear index. Seriously, the theory, which came from former Fed Chair Alan Greenspan, is that since underwear is something nobody else really sees, it's one of the very first things guys stop buying when they need to tighten their belts. Then you've got the lipstick effect. The idea here is that when people can't afford the big stuff anymore, like a new car or a big vacation, they start buying small, affordable luxuries to make themselves feel better. So sales of things like lipstick can actually go up during a downturn. And my personal favorite has to be the skyscraper index. This one's pretty cool. It points out that historically, the world's tallest skyscrapers, think the Empire State Building, the World Trade Center, they get financed during those big economic bubbles, and their completion often lines up almost perfectly with a major economic bust. Kind of spooky, right? Okay, so as fun as those are to talk about, they really just highlight a much more serious point about the information we all depend on. Because at the end of the day, these quirky little indexes are, let's be honest, anecdotal at best. They are absolutely no substitute for the kind of rigorous, carefully collected data that public agencies like the Bureau of Labor Statistics are supposed to provide. And here's why that matters so much. Reliable public data is what's called a public good. It's like clean air or a stable currency. It's something we all need to function and make good decisions. I mean, look at what happened in countries like Argentina and Greece when people started to suspect they were fudging their economic numbers. Global investors bolted, and it caused total chaos. So the real risk here isn't just one bad jobs report. It's the slow-motion crumbling of trust in the entire system that helps us agree on what's even real. Which leaves us with the biggest question of all, really. Our economy is transforming right in front of our eyes, with gig work, with side hustles, with AI, you name it. The real challenge isn't just about fixing the old gauges on the dashboard. It's about inventing brand new ones that can actually keep up with where we're going. So the question for all of us is, how do we do that before we find ourselves flying completely blind?